Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 6. I am Table for Two, aka Hunter, and I am joined by my two friends once again for another great episode. Gentlemen, how about you introduce yourself?
Hey, this is Mellified. I am being held hostage in Hunter's basement.
Wise.
Yes. And this is Jim, and it's too early, and I have no functioning brain, and I'm drinking a lot of coffee right now.
Yes, we had a late night of just hanging out and chatting, the three of us. So we're a little groggier this morning. At least a couple of us are. I'm on my second can of Bang right now. That's what's going on with me. So don't do drugs, kids. But yeah. So with our new format, this episode means we're talking the news. So I think we should just jump right on into the news. One of the biggest things that's happened within the last week or so, as of this recording, has been that Disney has brought back the LucasFilm Games brand for future Star Wars titles, but not just future Star Wars titles, but anything from the Lucasfilm brand to the forefront, which means that anything that falls under that, it could potentially get a game. As a matter of fact, we're getting an Indiana Jones game. No one asked for that. I mean, the old Indiana Jones games are kind of interesting. They're a little, some of them are a little like Tomb Raider-y. Some, like, if you know, I think was it the
old school Tomb Raider.
Right, yeah, old school. Like, we're talking about original Tomb Raider. So they're not bad, but it's just when I think of Lucasfilm, I don't necessarily think of like, man, I'd really love another Indiana Jones game. That being said, I'm holding out optimism for what it could be. I'm definitely curious, but I again was not expecting that. The other big news is that they've partnered with Ubisoft to make a new Star Wars open world game. Whether that's an MMO or some kind of lengthy RPG, we don't really know, but we do know it's the same developers who have done the Division 2, and they're using the same engine for that. So we could get some kind of, like Ghost Recon or Division 2 style Jedi game. Who knows? I think it's funny that like
this blaster is +1 to my ion stun for droids.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I guess you could have like after the fall of the Empire, right? Then it's like the Division, but on Coruscant. So you're just like running around and looting stuff.
Well, what's interesting is according to
the Dark Zone.
According to the Disney release cycle for like new content for Star Wars, when it comes to at least movies and TV, is they're doing Rangers of the New Republic, which is all supposed to take place within roughly the same time frame or timeline that the current Mandalorian show is happening, including the new Boba Fett show that they're going to be coming out with this upcoming December. So it's it's really interesting that they're doing this. I really would love to see them go back and like dig up all the old Star Wars 1313 stuff and like redo that. Like let's get that game back on the works. Because I looked it up the other day. So I looked up the E3 game demo trailer that they did for 1313. I think, what was it, back in 2013 before Disney took over. And I still want that game. That looks great.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to have an interesting story that wasn't about Jedis or like Sith or whatever. Like it's more like the blue collar Star Wars.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I've always felt that the Star Wars games, and from a gaming perspective, were always more interesting when it wasn't about the Force or the Jedi, with one exception being the Dark Forces series, because the Dark Forces series starts off that way. It starts off not being about a Jedi in the very first game. Then come to find out in the second game, he's got some abilities and stuff like that, but like you don't even get a lightsaber until later on unless you use a cheat code. And so, and then like the last two games in the series are definitely like now Kyle Katarn's got powers and a lightsaber and he's going around the galaxy doing Jedi things. Um, so, but like, you know, Shadows of the Empire, the X-Wing series, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, even X-Wing Alliance for what it's worth. You know, a lot of these games I thought were really good because they didn't really focus on, you know, the main character being some kind of like force wielder or lightsaber wielder to accomplish things. Hell, even back in the day, with Star Wars Galaxies, the focus of that game was not on being a Jedi, which I think was great. So yeah,
dance for me, baby.
Yes, that's right. I'll go and dance in that cantina all day long. Get my scripts up, get my macros going. You just have to, you know, send me a tell with a tip, and I'll buff you, baby.
Yeah, you know, when you say cantina, I don't hear the Mos Eisley cantina music so much as I hear that saxophone loop from Galaxies because it was just
Yes.
pervasive.
Yes.
Oh man,
I hear it. I hear it even now. I hear it even now.
You get a Twi'lek dancer, right? A GIF, and just file that under like GIFs you can hear.
That's right. Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
But no,
I think that the indie games. Going back for a second, the indie games were interesting because they were original stories in the Indiana Jones, you know, mythos, I guess. And they are promising this will be a original story for the new game, which I thought was interesting. And Harrison Ford will still talk about Indiana Jones, where he wants nothing to do with Star Wars. So maybe they can actually get him to do some voice work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him on the Star Wars stuff because Star Wars fans are just the absolute worst. There, sidebar for a second on that. What's just funny because I watched a recent interview with Bill Burr on Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon was asking about how like fans are like, you know, getting frustrated at the fact that he's got a Boston accent in Star Wars. And he's like, well, C-3PO's got a British accent. What is he, knighted? Like, what's going on with that? And he's like, you got
everybody speaking English.
He's like, everybody's speaking English. You know, you go to a galaxy far, far away. You get off the thing on a planet. It's like, hey, how's it going? You know, it's just like, you know. And then you got Han Solo with Bigfoot. He's talking Bigfoot, rah, 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 and like, you know, Han Solo understands him. giving me crap for my Boston accent. I thought it was hilarious, man. I love Bill Burr. But that was just a funny. Like, why do fans do that, man? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get where they get so frustrated at something so dumb as to call something out like that. But anyway, back on track though. I do think it's interesting that Lucasfilm Games is a thing after Disney took over and like killed LucasArts. It just, you know, the whole idea of like LucasArts was like that was a brand name that had a lot of weight to it. You know, it was a brand name that had a lot of power behind it, and I just don't feel that what we've gotten from Star Wars games, what we've gotten from Disney and owning Star Wars in terms of games hasn't been the kind of games that we've gotten in the past under the LucasArts brand.
Well, it's whatever EA decided to shit out that year or a couple of years, right?
Well, it wasn't just EA though. I'm talking about like in general, like, you know, now that Disney's gotten this, like, I mean, they really need to start working on their stuff again. And if they're going to make Lucasfilm Games like what they're trying to say it is, it's not just about Star Wars stuff, like Indiana Jones stuff. You know, they really need to, and they even said so too. If you look at the press release from Star Wars or Lucasfilm / Disney, they're like, well, we need, you know, we're not done with EA. But we felt like there can be more opportunities out there for other developers to do this, and it's just like that's what we've all been saying since you killed LucasArts. Like, stop it! Like, yes, well, finally, thank you for waking up.
Let's think about this, right? LucasArts created all of the original Maniac Mansion, Zach McCracken, Full Throttle, Sam and Max, which spun off, you know, a whole industry. And we had a dozen or more games from Lucas that are still so beloved that people went back and reverse engineered how to make them run on every system under the sun with the Scum VM project. So I think they really have done a disservice to Disney, has done a disservice to gamers. For example, they killed Disney Infinity. There were figures in production that they were going to release, and they just like, nah, we don't care about that. And the reason they gave made me so angry. And it was, well, when you're making billion-dollar blockbuster movies, a $50 million, $100 million game business just doesn't seem worth it. It's a distraction. I don't even understand how you miss the fact that more people engage with games and more meaningfully and longer and with their friends than they do with movies and TV these days.
Yeah.
I guess it's about brand building, right? But it's like if you have Star Wars and you have the Avengers stuff, and you feel like you're going to just like iterate on those forever, and you don't need to like introduce and build a new brand, or, because we're thinking quarter to quarter, not long term, because that's how the system works, right? That's what they encourage. It's just like, well, I only need to think as far ahead as like 6 months from now. So what are we doing then? And the argument about well, we're doing these giant blockbusters and we deal in billions of dollars, not millions of dollars. So when you're a billionaire, if there's $1 million laying on the ground, is it worth your time to bend over and pick it up? Because, I'm a billionaire, not a millionaire. That's too small to waste my time.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, because it becomes a focus on more about like what they would want rather than like, providing goods and services that like people would like to have. And yeah.
Well, and I think they could do both by licensing these things out, but they're so picky on the creative control side because they want these games to be on brand that they stifled exploration. They stifled going out and trying new things with some of these brands, and that's really unfortunate because we've got some great examples of when that's worked, like the Dark Forces games that you brought up earlier. I think are really a cool exploration of Star Wars from a perspective we don't normally see.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of whenever somebody acquires an IP and then sits on it forever, and just, it's like, well, nobody else can make games in that universe, but I refuse to as well. So it just gets dusty on the shelf, kind of thing. So I don't know.
Crimson Skies.
Yeah. That's a specific one.
Very much that.
And I've had that conversation with the FASA guys, right? It's, formerly FASA, now Hairbrain. And I'm like, why not Crimson Skies? And they're like, because Microsoft still has, apparently they licensed it in perpetuity to them, as they did with MechWarrior. And that's why Microsoft still doles out who gets to make MechWarrior stuff. And then Hairbrain had to go to Microsoft and be like, can we please use our own IP? It's like,
that's weird. Well, going back to something Cable said earlier, I wanted to bring this up because it's kind of a fun insider baseball story. Talking about LucasArts and the cachet that LucasArts used to have as a brand. Blizzard, I remember, did a marketing survey where they went and asked consumers, hey, you hear about a game that's going to be published by company blank. Are you more interested knowing that it's by that developer? And for Blizzard, it was 90+% of respondents said, yes, I would be more interested. And the next biggest publisher or developer on that survey was LucasArts. Now, what's interesting to me is LucasArts was only at 54% of respondents said they would be more interested if they heard it was by them. But the rest of the industry, fell off very quickly into the lower percentages. So, at least in 2003, 2004, LucasArts was, the number 2 brand in gaming, you could argue, behind Blizzard, and how the mighty have fallen on the Blizzard side. But I don't want to make this about Blizzard. So I just think that's really cool that LucasArts, I think we forget, because it's been so long, just how big a deal LucasArts was back in the day, and how they were doing original games. Christ, Loom is a game about a guy in space playing music. Like, where the hell did that come from? It's so neat, and they didn't have to do a sequel, right? They made the game, they put it out there, and here you go. So I love that we get all of these new ideas, and I'm hoping that they live up to that legacy with this. Well, time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it basically depends on are they going to stick to only IPs that they have, and is it seems like, okay, LucasArts as a studio isn't coming back, but LucasArts as the IPs are. So we're gonna now dole those out to other studios that want to make games, which is probably the better thing than Disney,
right,
like actually operating and managing a game studio, because
I agree with that.
Management would be horrific.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think too. I mean, they still have a deal with EA, but it's no longer like just going to be exclusive, which I think is good. I think I echo a lot of people's like frustrations at the idea that that's what Disney did when they got their hands on it. Is they're like, ooh, who's big, who's hot? Oh, EA, and it's just like, no, damn it, too late. Just like, and then there was so many stories that came out about how they started up all of these different types of projects and then canceled them. And then Battlefront 2 comes out, or Battlefront comes out, and it was just like, well, we've played this game before. Actually, we had a better version of this game before. Why didn't you just update the graphics and make a sequel to that instead of try and rebrand that brand again? They had a lot of opportunities. Now, that's not to say that they haven't been well developed and they don't look pretty, and it's just It's definitely very cookie cutter in its approach to how online games work right now with the Battlefront series, the way it is now. And it takes a lot of the control out of the players to be able to customize their experience, or curate the experience that they're looking for in that. Like they finally added like proper co-op, but the co-op is like you have to play with 4 other people. So if it's just like me and Jim playing, well, it's going to try and bake in 2 other rando players to come play with us. And it's just like, well, I don't want to play with these 2 other people. I just want to play with Jim. Like, but you can't do that. And
why are you so antisocial, Hunter?
Well, because I don't like strangers. Mama said don't talk to strangers, and but that is the bummer. That is the reasoning though. They're like, don't be so antisocial. It's just we're trying to bring people together. And it's just like, well, I've already got people. It's just like I got Jim. I don't want to play with these other people. Or Mellified. Like I got Mellified. I don't need to be playing with these other people.
It reminds me, like last night, I fired up the Call of Duty Cold War and just dropped in to see what's changed, right? Because I had some glitches, and I'm sure that they've probably fixed them at this point, but went back to it, right? And they added the prop hunt mode.
Yes, they did.
In it, which is like a straight lift out of Gary's mod, which is cool, right? And I had never actually played it in Gary's mod, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna drop in prop mode and see what's up.
It's only prop hunt and name.
Yeah.
Because
it's interesting.
Right.
What's different from it to Gary's mod? Because in this,
all right,
for people that haven't seen it, it's one team
essentially
can be object and you hide.
Right. So in the original Gary's mod, what it is you have two teams. You have the hunters and then you have the props. And so the people who get to be props, they get like 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds at the beginning of the round to like scurry and find something that they want to be. They go up to an object, they click on it, they become that thing, and then they have to like try and go and find like a nonchalant place to hang out that looks natural. And then it's up to the hunters to try and go and find them, and try and go and figure things out. But the objects can move at any time. So like the people who are props can go and like find another prop to be, or they can go and find another location to hide, and they can keep doing this as much as they want.
Which is why you see like a mop bucket running down the street trying to find a place to hide.
Right, but you see in the Call of Duty thing, the way it is they randomly assign you a prop. And then you have to try and go and hide. And then every so often, your prop will whistle out loud. And so it's just kind of like, it gives it like an echolocation. So you can plant a decoy and then like move, and then the person comes and finds like not you there, but like a decoy, so they know that they're like on the trail. And then you can have an opportunity.
When you whistle, you have to, that causes all the props to have to migrate. You can't just sit there the whole match.
Well, you can sit there, but I mean, it brings in that echolocation to like try and help figure out where you are. So it's trying to give it an advantage to the hunters. And then you only get, I think you only get 2 additional like changes, so you can hit a button and change into another random object, not of your choosing.
You can't choose is the problem.
Right. And so
it's like, oh shit, now I'm an orange couch. Where do I hide this? And I don't have any more changes, so I'm screwed.
Yeah, so I mean, they're similar, but they're also very different. So
yeah. So is that a thing that's just available as far as like the general multiplayer, or do you have to have World at War or Cold War rather?
I don't
because you know a lot about it, and I didn't think you owned Cold War. So
I don't own Cold War, but I have YouTube.
It's complicated is the answer. Modern Warfare, the third game bearing that name, not Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare, the one from last year, includes Warzone, and so does Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Right. And if you launch it from any, then it launches the one from 2019.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it's a little wonky how it's set up, but
I don't understand why if I have Black Ops Cold War installed, it forces me to also install the thing from the other Call of Duty, and I must have it installed. But I don't understand why, because it's an entirely separate thing and doesn't share assets or executable or anything. So why did they force that?
Well, Warzone is free. And that's
great, but it takes up 100 gigs of my disk.
Oh,
so
understood, but the whole thing is Warzone is the Fortnite model where they have to get you engaged, and once they get you engaged, they start getting their hooks into you with all the cosmetic content. So if you don't play, then they can't get their hooks in you. So that's why they install it.
Yeah, and I think PC Gamer had an article that was something to the effect of Modern Warfare has streamlined the Battle Royale to the point where it's not really Battle Royale anymore. It's a different thing. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of turning Fortnite-ish. But because Fortnite, man, it's like, hey, you want to hang out with your bros and watch movies? Let's go to Fortnite. Fortnite at some point will become Second Life, I feel. When they allow people to just make their own, like, hey, I can make my own world. Come on in, hang out.
Fortnite still has the advantage of the whole like the crafting mechanic where you can build towers and all that kind of stuff. The thing that's interesting about the Call of Duty Battle Royale stuff is the way that they've kind of redefined the thing with like the Gulag, for example, and the way that they've done like supply drops and these kind of things. So it's like you can actually get your actual loadout, the one that you really want, not just by finding stuff and picking it up off the ground, which I think is interesting. And it awkwardly has vehicles, which I think is an interesting take. You know, you can get a gosh darn helicopter for crying out loud. Like that to me is nuts. You know, but it sure does, you know, paint a target on you if you don't know what you're doing. So,
well, let's move on unless someone stops me.
Please.
All right. So, on a little bit lighter note, Xbox Canada announced a new controller. It's one of a kind, but they wanted to create something that was uniquely Canadian. And so they have a Xbox controller wearing a Canadian tuxedo, as it's called, which is a somewhat insulting and derogatory name for all denim. I didn't realize that there was a problem wearing all denim until I moved to the States as a child. So maybe that says something. But
in the 80s, it was a thing. So
wait, are you Canadian?
Yes,
Canada's
I'm originally
bringing it back.
Oh,
do they have bell
well,
Do they have bell bottoms in Canada as well?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I haven't been to Canada in more than 20 years, so it's been a while. But yeah. So if if you want to see a picture of this, we'll post it in the Gilded server. But my goodness, it is something to see. It's even got little pockets and little belt loops on the controller, which I can only imagine would be a pain in the butt. So I thought that was something fun to share.
You're like, you're trying to hit that start button and you get stuck in a belt loop trying to.
Exactly.
Yeah. This gives me an idea, though. We should have a line of gamer clothing that'll be like gamer pants, right? And it's got like a pocket that has loops that specifically hold Monster Energy, and then you have like a Dorito pocket that's like plastic line.
Like Kanye comes out with like Yeezys for gamers or something like that.
Yeah, whatever Yeezys are. Wasn't
no.
Don't worry about
Wasn't that the lady on the Jeffersons that was Yeezy?
Wheezy.
Oh, Wheezy.
Yeah, that was Wheezy. All right, so dear God, we're gonna get this show done today. The Pokemon Company has announced a release date for the new Pokemon Snap on Switch. This is a game inspired by the old N64 title Pokemon Snap, where you basically it's an on-rail shooter, but instead of killing things, you take pictures of Pokemon. And you have lures, you can bring them over to you. For Pokemon fans, this new Snap game is kind of a big deal because it takes place in a new region, which is always an exciting way to say new scenery, new backgrounds. And there's a bunch of Pokemon in this game. So it should be pretty exciting for fans. And I love to see games that aren't, we hear a lot about all the shooters. And so it's always neat to see a game that can be compelling and interesting and fun without being a shooter. And I think this definitely qualifies.
It's a different kind of shooting, that's for
sure. So Jim posted in our memes channel here on Gilded, guy who takes 4,000 pictures of his cat a year doesn't understand Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, it's like, why would that be popular? I don't. Yeah. So it makes me think, like, why in a world where Pokemon Go, the AR game, can exist, why is there no AR Pokemon Snap so that you have to just run around and take pictures of Pokemon hanging out in the real world?
Well, that's why I never understood why they didn't do this in like the actual like Pokemon Go game. Like it never made sense to me.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I mean, you can take pictures. You can take pictures of your Pokemon in that, but like, there's no from what I gathered, there was no like mini game revolving around that, which I feel like they could have done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and what a great surveillance tool, because they could have children just taking pictures of places. It's like, hey, we need a picture of what's behind that dumpster over there. Hide a Pokemon there.
Jim, I didn't put my tinfoil with me today. I'm sorry, man.
No, but think about like Google Street View, right?
Sure.
And you could have Pokemon Street View where people with their cell phones out photographing Pokemon would actually be taking the pictures of every square inch of the planet.
That's terrifying.
You could just stitch that together. Yes.
Given the problems we've had with schooling remotely and inappropriate content ending up on Zoom, I can only imagine what we'd find.
Oh, God.
With something like this. All right. So moving on, my brain just shut off for a second there. Apologies. I really am excited to see this. One of the criticisms a lot of people have about Xbox as a platform is that there's no exclusives. And while Microsoft's trying to address that, they bought up, a huge chunk of the gaming industry, a bunch of developers. And it seems like that's starting to bear fruit. They've confirmed 30 games coming as console exclusives in 2021. So these are games that would not be on PlayStation or Switch. They will be on PC because that's Microsoft's MO these days. But my gosh, I think, it seems like that strategy is going to pay off for them with 3 games a month this year, on average, coming out just for Xbox. So.
Well, and that's the question that I have. Is it just for Xbox, or is it for like the Windows ecosystem, like the Xbox gaming ecosystem?
Well, they say console exclusive, so it's almost certainly PC plus Xbox.
Interesting. Yeah, so they have a list of titles here. I'm trying to see what you posted this thing.
Halo Infinite's an obvious one. The Medium, which is a psychological horror game, that's coming out at the end of this month.
What difficulty level do you think you'll play that on?
Whatever. I want to play it because it looks really good. But I'm wondering, such a baby.
Do the developers intend you to play medium on medium difficulty?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you were getting at the horror aspect. I'm a big wuss when it comes to horror, so I'm.
Oh yeah, the Warhammer 40K sure. Dark Tide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming to Xbox in the summer. We're getting Psychonauts 2. There's some big name games on here. Now there's also some really small, indie titles, but it's a pretty slick list here. So anyway,
Mecha.
Anyway, it's good news for Xbox, good news for PC owners too, because Microsoft, as we say, is tending to bring all these games to PC as well.
That's fantastic.
Jim, can you talk to us about the Fallout New Vegas Frontier mod? I think you were the one who brought this up originally.
I watched a guy play a little bit of it last night. Apparently, you play Fallout New Vegas as normal until you get to about level 11. And then you meet an NPC it's like there's 3 different factions, and you join one of the 3, and then you go through their whole quest faction thing, which apparently is each one of them as big as Fallout New Vegas itself or something. So it's like, well, that's a large mod. It's fully voice acted. It's basically like a professional DLC that's in the thing. And from what I saw, there's this event where the whoever guys, the coalition forces that fought Brotherhood of Steel, go up into, I don't know where it is, Alaska, somewhere snowy, and then they have this battle with Brotherhood, and you actually join up with the military, and then they have like that whole Saving Private Ryan kind of scene where it's like a bunch of military guys sitting around the campfire, and the one guy is like showing off this ring that he got for his girl, and when they get back from the war, he's going to propose. So immediately you're like, yeah, this guy's dead. And right, and he does. But it's like, this whole scene that gets set, and then you go into this battle, and the cutscenes are pretty lit. They did it all in here, it looks like. But I watched a guy play like an hour of that, where he went through like that set piece battle thing, and then afterwards it turns you loose in it. So it's like the people that wrote that, at least for that particular branch of the story, are aware of the lore in Fallout. So it's not like they just made up some new thing. It's like they're sending you into a canonical situation that happened, that was talked about in the game, but you never actually got to see. And here you actually get to go there and see it. So that's kind of neat. They put vehicles in the game, so you can finally actually like drive a Jeep or fly a vertibird. At some point, they let you do that. But the vehicle system, I watched a developer video where they were showing like the evolution of cars in Fallout, and how they started out, they were really jank, and it was like car that can rotate in place kind of thing. You know, you don't have to like drive it like a real car. And then they got it up to the point where it actually it's kind of like as close to Forza Horizon in Fallout as you can get. And it's like, well, that's really cool. So yeah, it looks worth it. So there's a Nexus mod version that's out right now, and you can download that with the Nexus mod manager, or you wait for the Steam version, and then the Steam version will be like a separate download thing.
Okay.
Also, like, installs New Vegas, but you have to own New Vegas and all the expansions.
Gotcha. I'm really looking forward to that. I think New Vegas. I know a few of the guys over at Obsidian, living in Irvine, where they're located for a number of years, and you know, it's funny, without that relationship, New Vegas is still probably my favorite Fallout game. As much as I enjoy the originals, I feel like New Vegas just had so much swagger and style, and I enjoyed the story. I really liked the setting. So
yeah, and it still felt like an RPG as opposed to Fallout 4, which is more of like a shooter with RPG elements. So
yes,
but I do like Fallout 4. I want to like Fallout 76, right? Which when it first came out, Fallout 76 was just bad, and it has gotten remarkably better, but it still feels like yeah. There's, I don't know, it's like it's really tough to make a Fallout like instanced MMO kind of experience sort of thing. It's not what I'd have done. But it's okay, especially since I get it for free with Game Pass. It's like, okay, I can deal with this, right? But if I'd paid like $60 for it, and you know, got my nylon my nylon knapsack thing, remember that whole deal? Like canvas was in short supply apparently. That whole mess, right? Like if I had bought into it, I would still not be completely satisfied with it. But as a thing that I can just do for free if I feel like it, it's like it's acceptable.
Yeah, I think my one remaining complaint, I think they've addressed a lot of the issues, as you say. My one remaining complaint, though, is the way that the paid servers run. The person paying has to be logged in order for the server to exist. So, like, if I wanted to host one for our wonderful OtherWorldsGG community on Guilded, I would have to somehow stay logged in all the time for that server to exist. Yeah, otherwise, the instance is put away.
That's strange thing. So, Hunter and I have been messing around with this Last Oasis game, which is kind of interesting and horrifying at the same time. We'll have to get into that. We could talk too long about the weirdness of that game, but think of it being it's more like Kenshi in tone, right? Like the whole world is like a sand wasteland with oases, you know, where there's wood and water and stuff. And it is kind of like EVE Online in that other players are the content. So, you know, it's like gather resources, build your desert boat, which are, have you ever seen those walking sculptures? I think it was a French artist made, and they look like mechanical spider leg things that are wind powered. And that's somebody saw that and said, I could put that in a video game. So now you have boats that have mechanical legs that operate on like a rotating gear system that just makes them walk, right?
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I think that's, to me, the only thing cool in the game is those things. But it's interesting for that content. But it's kind of got like a Fallout vibe to it as well, kind of thing. I just wish that those like land ship things were in a game that was more like a Fallout game, like Fallout 76 or something.
Well, take this for what it is, though, because Last Oasis is still in early access. It's still in development. They're still heavily working on it. It had launched at one point, and it was just terrible. And they actually like closed it back up and went back and like fixed the whole things, and then relaunched their beta again. And so it's actually way better than it was during its first time through. It's got a very heavy tutorial that really tries to teach you everything, but if you follow that tutorial, you're not going to be playing with like your friends anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a long tutorial.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is it will teach you. But if you have people that are already in there, you can just go ahead and link up with them, and then they can kind of give you the resources you need, and you can just kind of move on from that. So like there's a couple of different walkers that you can learn how to build, and one of them actually can get deployed into like a mini base, and then you can like pack that back up into like a walker again and like move it to another tile or another oasis, for example.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up going here, is because Fallout 76, but before I forget why I even started talking about that game, Fallout 76 and then this game. So this game does an interesting thing about the map and the instances of zones and stuff, because if you go into a place and construct a bunch of stuff, right, then there's a timer, right? Now what is it, like 20 days or something?
I have
and
no
then
idea
that
what the
zone
timer is.
resets.
It's a little different.
There is a timer, right? So we went into the zone.
It can go away.
Yeah. So it's like the world just constantly is like rebooting sections of itself. So there's like a map square out in the desert, and you can go there and you can build what you want, but that map square and everything in it is going to self-destruct in X number of days. So nothing is permanent. It's like the desert reclaims everything, I guess, is their point. But in a Fallout situation, right, where you're on a static map that's large, and there's no like variation in the map. But it would be interesting to see a Fallout game where sections of the map like got wiped out, or whatever happens, right, where it's just like you have to continuously keep moving around, and they don't have to do it like on a like once a month schedule or something like that, but it could just be like, hey, we're going to change the whole map, like everybody has to go to this other map for a while, and then they could like cycle through stuff or whatever. But that's completely not the way that Fallout 76 is, because they've got like all the quests and stuff baked in. But it would be kind of a different game, basically. But I kind of find it intriguing that they actually like destroy because like if you play on an Empyrean server or something, you can build a bunch of stuff, but then you'll see like a note like, hey, we're going to wipe the server every 3 months or something, just to get rid of like the abandoned crud. Like, hey, players built stuff, they're not playing anymore, but we got their stuff laying everywhere. How do we decay that? That kind of thing. Different systems for that. But that I think avoids the situation, because Last Oasis is very much like Rust, right? But in Rust, you log into a server and you just see like player-made forts everywhere that have been there since the last time the server reset, which could be, however long. And maybe those people haven't logged in 6 months, but their BS is still laying all over the place, right? And it's taking up space. So, and because of the nature of the game, it's like you can't just tear down somebody else's building, right? Because that would be the thing that people did right away. But yeah, it's interesting how they basically clean the map on a rotating basis, and it's not the whole map at once. It's just subsections of the map.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how it all works. I'm not sure what to make of the game, because I mean there are trading centers where you can actually go and like get missions. So like you can get missions to go like clear 3 NPC bases, and then you come back and you get some like fragments or money for it, and then you can go and like sell your wares. So it does have a player economy market very similar to Eve, but it I don't know. Like I'm not entirely sure what the end goal is of the game, because other than PvP, because the PvE content is just it again is kind of like it's there. It's kind of like Elite Dangerous. The PvE content is just like there. Like, so but what's the purpose of it? Well, you can go and do it, yeah, but it's boring. But it's just like,
What would be really interesting is if they had a zone that you couldn't build in, but it was actually the NPC city, right? Because they have that trader that moves around, but this would be a different animal. So say there is a hub that then has quests that would be like, go out to these coordinates in the desert, and there's a thing to do, right? Like retrieve this thing, or
I mean, they kind of have that right now, just at the different trade hubs. So
yeah, so you go to the trade hub to get quests then.
Yeah.
I never got to one because I was hanging with you guys and you didn't do it. But yeah, so I mean, the trade hub could do it as well. Yeah, it's kind of like how
and
like
the trade hub lets you like do duels. So like you can like request to like duel somebody. There's like an arena. You can go into like the arena and you can be like, hey, I want to duel you, but the other player has to accept. So
can you duel with your ships and not lose them? So it's a way to test out.
No, this is like a player.
Oh, just PvP. All right. Anyway, moving on. We didn't come here to talk about Oasis, but yeah,
it's a tangent on this show. What?
Yeah,
no,
it's a weird game. But there's other news out there. Vin Diesel's in a video game.
Yeah, I was gonna save that for our next show, for anticipated games, but
yeah, we'll talk about that in our next episode. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting. So Razer,
yeah, they made a gamer what somebody described as a gamer high chair.
Dude, I gotta give it to Razer for at least trying to innovate. Like they at least try to like invent something and like make it worthwhile. Like a few years back, they came out with that laptop that had like 3 screens on it. So it was like it opened up and it had 2 side screens that would like fold out from it. I was like, that's genius. Like if they made that and it was actually good, I'd consider buying it.
Yeah, so this is a gaming chair that emulates like a school desk, right? So it's just got like a desk built on the front of it.
Kind of. If you look at the GIF of it they have on this article here, it like shows the desk part coming out from the arms, and then this like screen kind of like comes down in front of you and unfolds, but it's like a translucent material. Crazy idea. If it wasn't April 1st, I'd think,
Yeah, I think they're actually going to produce.
I don't know. Like Razer does this kind of stuff every now and then, and they never really like I said, that laptop was like 4 years ago now, and
well, it was a concept, right? It's like the car shows, right? The supercars that they make just to show off ideas, not necessarily to be a product. There's some interesting things here. I can't imagine the mechanical stuff that it's doing where it's opening and doing all that would be cheap or easy to make reliable. So it would be a very expensive chair, but it's an interesting idea. I think we will see a time when stuff like this becomes more common, but it's got to be a pricey thing, I would think.
Well, I was about to say, this chair is gonna be $10,000. So,
yes,
wow.
But if you never leave your house and you don't need a car, where you live, like maybe you buy that instead. I don't know.
Well, like I said,
I'm guessing, by the way, I'm guessing on $10,000. But knowing Razer, like they charge an arm and a leg.
Yeah, it does, dude. It looks like this is the Star Trek school desk. Is exactly what this is.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, this has a very Trek vibe to it.
Yeah, so every time you want to get out of the chair, you have to retract the screen, which is a pain in the ass.
Yep. Well, it's an interesting idea. I doubt we'll ever see it in production, but it was kind of a neat concept.
And the feet of the chair are RGB, so it lights up on the ground. Oh,
and the arms.
Oh, everybody's obsessed with RPG. Jesus Christ!
Do you remember whenever I went shopping for a recliner and took Joan with me, right? And they had a gamer recliner that actually had like RGB underlighting underneath it, so it looked like a damn lowrider, and and I didn't want it, and it looked uncomfortable as hell. But I made such a show out of like, oh, Joan, can I please get this one? You know, just to like make her freak out. Like I was going to actually put that in the living room.
Oh man.
And the sales guy was kind of like nudge wink in on it with me, right? So he was just like trying to sell her on it, and oh god, it's sometimes trolling her is like the best thing.
Well, speaking of trolling people, I wanted to talk. I included this story specifically because I want to talk about it, and I put this probably the blame for this probably on the publisher, but Control is a game that came out and it had some DLC, and it was good. It's a very good game. I've played it all the way through, really enjoyed it, played it on PC. So it's made by Remedy, the guys who did Alan Wake, as well as a number of other games over the years. And it's published by 505 Games, who may, I guess, publish real games. I always thought of them as more of a mobile publisher. There's some controversy. I called mobile games not real games. So they wanted to do an Ultimate Edition, as you do these days. When you make some DLC, you bundle all that DLC up and you sell the game again. And obviously this is a weird time because we've got a console transition. So you've got people who bought Control for the Xbox One or the PS4 who want to play it on their Xbox Series with all the new whiz-bang features. One of the big things Control has is really nice ray tracing, and it really it's really a good showpiece for ray tracing in the game. So the publisher decides, well, we're going to release Control Ultimate Edition, but we're going to charge full price for it with no upgrade path for people who have the game already on the old consoles. Now on PC, this isn't an issue because you already, have the game. But with so many other publishers doing free upgrades, this really stood out because they were charging $60 for the upgrade, essentially. And what's worse is they sold Control Ultimate starting in October or November last year. The game's not actually out yet. The enhancements for the new consoles doesn't actually ship until February. So they're selling, not only are they charging you full price, but they're selling you something that if you load it up today on your Xbox Series X, thinking you're getting ray tracing and all the cool graphics, they're not actually there yet. Because
so is it like you're buying the old game? It's like you buy the new game, but they give you the old game, and then you get, it's almost like a season pass for the DLC that upgrades the game. Is that
right? But you're getting the DLC when you buy it, but then you're like paying for the future opportunity to get the patch. I guess it's really strange.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Is like the feature patch will come in this, but we can't just put that feature patch on the existing game. We have to have you repurchase the game to get the thing that isn't there yet. So, which is just if you already own the game with all the DLC and then you purchase the new version, it's going to be identical to what you already have. Please wait.
except it's going to have the better graphics on the newer consoles. So I just that really irked me. That seemed kind of shady. Like they're not even making it clear that what you're getting in the Xbox, what is labeled Xbox Series X game, isn't actually, upgraded yet to take advantage of the new hardware. So it just seemed really bizarre. Yeah. So nothing else to really say there. Last one I wanted to highlight, there is a free game on Steam called 6 Seasons and a Game, which if you are not a fan of the TV show Community, probably means absolutely nothing to you. But if you are a fan of Community, a TV show which happened to run for 6 seasons and featured a recurring joke about a campus-wide paintball game.
It's one of the best episodes ever.
Oh yeah. Well, and so this is a game that they, for copyright reasons, can't actually use the word Community anywhere, but is very clearly inspired by Community. And it's an opportunity to not only play some silly, fun paintball with your friends, as I say, free to play, but also explore the campus of the school from Community. And there's a lot of in-jokes and little nods to the TV series in the game as well. So just something fun if you are a fan, and can't beat the price.
There's 32 people playing right now.
That's yeah, apparently. So yeah, just something fun to check out. I think that's all the news that's fit to print. I don't know where we ended up on the clock there.
I mean, we're doing really good, and I think this will do it for the news. As always, guys, if you want to keep this conversation going, we have all of this and more over on our Gilded server. So please come on over to gilded.otherworlds.gg, where you can find all of us hanging out and all this information. Feel free to chat about it. We do have calendars and forums and all kinds of things going on over there.
We have a community play every Friday night. We just played Golf with Your Friends, which if you want to hear me swear like a sailor had a baby with a truck driver.
I heard Mellified say things I've never heard him say before. I mean, I was impressed. I didn't realize his vocabulary range went that high. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was like, I didn't even know he knew some of those words.
Golf, for whatever reason, video game golf like bypasses all of the, they talk about the thin veneer of civilization. It like gets to the primal lizard part of my brain and just makes me want to throw the controller. So,
oh man,
and then you turn it into this game, which just like normal golfy stuff is bad, and then this game is like FU golf. It should be what it's called, or like curse with your friends.
Yeah, curse.
Yeah, well, you've got crazy physics. It's mini golf on the surface, but the level design is insane. That we did a space
like Trackmania of golf.
Yeah. We did a space station, and the gravity is shifting, and there's black holes, and oh my god, it was so. And like any mini golf, if it goes bad, it is fun, to be clear. But if it goes bad, it goes really bad. Like you're 16 strokes in and going, I can't even see the hole from where I'm at. So. I very quickly learned about the forfeit option in the menu. Let's just leave it at that. So
it's a good time.
But yeah, if you want to join in on the fun, that's every Friday night.
There it is. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. This has been episode number 6.